Here we have the AS44, the Vanguard assault rifle that flies a little under the radar in Warzone's Caldera, and frankly not the first weapon I think of when building out a class. But every now and then I picked it up and thought, you know, fully kitted out, this might have potential. And sometimes, just sometimes, my gut feeling is right on the money. So stick around to the end where I give the AS44 a Rob rating of spec it, try it, or drop it after checking out its stats, recoil plots, and more. Hey folks, Robman here with a friendly hello and a big thanks for stopping by the channel. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like and subscribe button. It really does wonders for growing the channel. And leave me a comment down below if you've got a favorite gun you'd like me to look into. Alrighty, so let's jump into the build real quick. We've got the MX silencer, 650mm barrel, 2.5 times scope, ZAC 12B custom stock, Carver foregrip, 60 round 30 Russian short ammo, the lengthened ammo type, stippled grip, and steady and fully loaded for the weapon perks. Wow, what a mouthful. In short, this build maxes out range, damage, and recoil with a strong focus on dealing with the AS44's initial recoil. We'll check out the recoil plots later in the video, so stick around. And as always, you can swap out the 2.5 times scope to something that fits your playstyle. So with the build out of the way, let's punch up those TTKs and see what we're dealing with. As we can see here, we've got a short-range TTK of 715 milliseconds within the first 38 meters of range. For ranges beyond that, we're sitting at about 845 milliseconds. Both values are about 8% faster than the assault rifle class average when kitted out similarly across the range. In fact, of the assault rifle class, the AS44 has the 5th fastest TTK at range and the fastest short-range time to kill value of the lot. But as I always say, on-paper TTKs are not always the most important thing, especially if there are significant downsides elsewhere that holds the weapon back. So let's see how the mobility stats stack up here. Here we can see that on the whole of it, the AS44 is about 3% faster in general mobility when moving around the map. But over on the ADS side of things, we can see that the AS44 is significantly slower than the class average by about 12% across the range. The only saving grace here is that despite the high percentage figure, we're talking about only a 0.2 meters per second deficit here. And while it'll affect the overall feel of the AS44 versus some other options, I personally have never felt held back because of the slower ADS speed. On this one, you're going to have to check it out for yourself and see whether you can accommodate the speed or not. Alright, so let's do the rundown on key operational gun stats. Beginning with reload time, we can see the AS44 is about 5.5% slower on the partial reload and almost 10% slower on full reload times. These figures put it closer to the bottom of the AR class, and with its above average fire rate, this thing does chew through ammo quite a bit. Which, speaking of fire rate, it clocks in at about 923 rounds per minute, or a whopping 31% above average for the AR class. We can see its fire rate is comparable to the venerable M13 or notable FFAR. Moving over to damage figures, the first drop-off occurs at about 38.8 meters, which puts the short-range damage figures in the middle of the AR pack. The AS44 requires a little bit of precision in that you're going to want to hit the core body and avoid extremities to apply max damage. It's not quite as point of shoot as something like the XM4, but it certainly is manageable. And coupled with the extremely fast fire rate, this weapon is on the more forgiving side in that you can just send bullets down the range knowing you can afford to miss a few. And lastly, getting down to bullet velocity, I've put the AS44 against other ARs with similar long-range TTKs. We can see here that it's by and large in line with its comparators. As always, I'll note we should really only be looking at the 100 to 150 meter range, as this is the typical effective range of the AR class. Alrighty, so with the rundown complete, let's go ahead and check out our visual recoil clip. First in normal speed, followed by a slowed down to half speed. So I want you to pay attention to the first 6 bullets or so in the half-speed clip. The initial recoil is significantly higher. This is the AS44's Achilles heel. The magnitude of the initial recoil makes it incredibly difficult to hit your shots. And the shift from strong initial recoil to the more reasonable sustained recoil also throws off your ability to keep on target, since you'll need to adjust your recoil compensation midstream. You're going to want to pull down on the stick, if you're playing console that is, and then gently ease up in response to the lesser recoil after the first 6 shots or so. Over the time I was using the AS44 to create this video and test it out, I was beginning to learn the muscle memory, but man, it wasn't a pretty process. The stippled grip tape and the ZAC 12B custom stock are absolutely necessary here. Both help with that initial recoil, and to be honest, I was starting to give up on this weapon until I added those attachments. It is possible to learn the recoil, but be warned, it is challenging. But with an incredibly strong TTK and a very forgiving fire rate, I think it's worth the time to put into it. To sum up the AS44's recoil plot, the recoil path is pretty linear, the visual recoil is okay for the most part, the initial recoil is a challenge, and the magnitude of the recoil shifts mid-plot. So we've come full circle, and it's time to give the AS44 its ROB rating. Should you spec it, try it, or drop it? On this one, as much as it pains me to say, I'm gonna have to say try it. Sure, the AS44 has one of the best TTK times out there, and quite frankly, it feels quick when I'm hitting my shots, but its initial recoil pattern really holds this gun back. Without the stippled grip and ZAC 12B stock, it is quite difficult to use, as I found out while leveling it up. So if you're looking for a higher skilled weapon that will bring back better than average kill times, this is a great option. For casual and newer Warzone players, I'd say there are other options that may be on paper a little bit slower, but you're almost guaranteed to hit your shots, which will more than make up for the TTK deficit. So what do you folks think? Do you agree with the try it ROB rating? Let me know in the comments below. Well, that pretty much wraps up this video on the AS44. I hope you've learned something and enjoyed the video. If you have, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button to help continue the channel to grow. With that, it's time to sign off. RobMan out. Cheers.